Climate change is a myth. There's a microchip in the vaccine. COVID was caused by 5G, or maybe Bill Gates. All of this is the gospel according to that guy you know on Facebook.
Well, fake news has always existed, especially in politics. People have always lied. But when the internet and social media came along, something fundamentally changed. It changed society's relationship to the truth.
That was just fake news by NBC.
We are fighting the fake news.
You are fake news.
Donald Trump took credit for inventing the phrase fake news.
I call the fake news now corrupt news because fake isn't tough enough. And I'm the one that came up with the term. I'm very proud of it.
But the phrase was actually coined years earlier by the editor of BuzzFeed, making Trump's fake news fake news.
Unfortunately, our media ecosystem has completely broken down, where people can't tell the difference between a fake news website and a real news website. And also, they probably don't want to. Our brains are geared to look at something with a lot of likes and assume that it's true. What we don't do is assess it ourselves. We look to what our peers think. Oh, well, a lot of people have liked this. Well, I guess it's true. I'm going to believe it and I'm going to share it as if it was true as well.
Ed Coper says the tsunami of disinformation has undermined public trust.
When the polio vaccine was invented in the 1950s, people followed the scientific advice and eradicated polio. The same thing happened with the COVID vaccine, and we find people aren't listening to the public health advice because they can choose selectively where they get their information from.
Trusting the wrong source can be deadly. And not just for those who avoid the vaccine because they get their news on Facebook. A few years ago, false information led to mass murder.
When the Myanmar regime in Burma wanted to prosecute a genocide against the Rohingya minority, the first thing they did was set up Facebook pages about Burmese pop stars, beauty pages, news pages. They got millions of Burmese fans, brought them into this bubble, and after that, they could tell them anything they wanted to hear. And that's what allowed them to get away with the genocide.
Seeing protesters overcome the police are now running back into the Capitol building.
In the US, we saw how fake news led to the storming of the Capitol on January 6 last year. What other sorts of calamities has fake news caused in Australia?
When you see all of the anti-lockdown protests in Victoria and all of the outrage that we see reported in the media, you can actually trace that back to fake accounts on Twitter repeating the same hashtag over and over again until it gets reported as news.
Police braced for another anti-lockdown protest to turn violent.
I think we've just seen the tip of the iceberg in terms of the harm that disinformation can do. So a couple of weeks ago, someone in Melbourne set themselves on fire over their anti-lockdown protest. And it's just a matter of time before this disinformation on social media bleeds into real-world violence. And that's not a matter of if, that's a matter of when.
So how do we deal with those spreading the lies?
So the first thing that's really important is don't cut them off. Don't defriend them. That's often the temptation. But unfortunately, then all that's left will be that bubble that we've left them in, and it will just become hostile to outside thought. So in a private conversation, the incentive is to see if you can reach some common ground and find consensus.
With a federal election only months away, Ed Coper predicts things can only get worse.
So how can we tell when a politician is giving us fake news?
Well, increasingly these days it's when their lips are moving. But we really know there's the usual suspects. And these politicians aren't idiots. They know that their content will get favoured in social media if they give people what they want. So we know that Craig Kelly, George Christensen, Pauline Hanson, Malcolm Roberts, these are the people who are most engaged with on social media, and it's no coincidence that those are the people who are spreading the most misinformation. So the science is clear that the more we teach people about fake news and disinformation, the more likely they are to recognise when they see it and to be able to not share it and not believe it. So in fact, just by watching this story, your viewers are going to be much better prepared to see disinformation because they've thought about it, they're inoculated against it.
It's a fascinating topic, and Ed Coper's book Facts and Other Lies is available in bookstores right now.